Okay, so did you know that the Great Depression and the Harlem Renaissance happened simultaneously at the same time? And why it just so happened that dance and the arts still thrived? Okay, so most people learn about the Great Depression in school as one of the hardest economic periods in American history. Unemployment was high, businesses were closing, families were struggling to survive. But what many people don't realize is that during that same time period, something incredible was happening culturally. Okay, so one of the most powerful artistic movements in American history was also happening, the Harlem Renaissance. And dance played such a huge role within the Harlem Renaissance. Okay, so today we are going to talk about how these two things, economic hardship and cultural creativity, happened at the same time, and what dancers and artists what dancers and artists of today can learn from that moment in history. Okay, so first, what was the Great Depression? Okay, so the Great Depression began after the stock market crash of 1929, and it lasted throughout the 30s, and it affected millions of people across the United States and even around the world. Jobs were scarce, many families lost their homes, and for artists and performers and musicians, the situation was especially difficult. So, because people were struggling financially, the arts, as we all know, are often one of the first things to lose funding. But something interesting happened. Even in the middle of economic hardship, people still needed music, they still needed dance, and they still needed storytelling. And in many ways, they needed it even more. Okay, so what was the Harlem Renaissance? At the same time, Harlem in New York City became a major epicenter for Black cultural life. The Harlem neighborhood was filled with writers, musicians, dancers, and visual artists who were redefining what American culture could look like. So we're talking about writers like Langston Hughes were creating poetry that captured the everyday experiences of Black Americans. Musicians were developing jazz, and dancers were creating entirely new performance styles. The Harlem Renaissance wasn't just an artistic movement, it was a declaration of identity, creativity, and cultural pride. Okay, so what did dance look like during this time? Dance was everywhere during this period. One of the most famous places was the Savoy Ballroom. Okay, so the Ballroom became known as one of the most exciting dance spots in the country. It was integrated, which was rare at the time, and it's where the Lindy Hop exploded in popularity. Okay, so dancers like Norma Miller and the famous Lindy Hop groups developed athletic, joyful partner dances that many people still perform today. And at the same time, you have artists like Katherine Dunham who were studying African and Caribbean movement traditions and bringing them into concert dance. And dancers like Edna Guy, who were pushing for Black dancers to be recognized in the modern dance world. So, dance wasn't just entertainment at this time, it was at the forefront of innovation. All right, so why does art thrive during hard times? So, one of the most interesting things about history, if you study history or if you're a history buff, is that art often grows during difficult moments. When communities face challenges, artists respond by telling stories. Music becomes a way to cope, dance becomes a way to release energy, to celebrate life, to bring people together. During the Great Depression, dance halls were full. Not because people were ignoring the hardships that were around them, but because dance gave people a moment of joy, connection, and hope. And that was really powerful. Okay, so what does this mean for the artists of today? As dancers, teachers, and artists, this history reminds us of something very important. The arts are not just decoration, They are essential. Dance reflects culture, dance preserves history, dance brings people together when times are difficult. The dancers of the Harlem Renaissance didn't wait for the perfect conditions to create something. They created anyway. And because of that, they helped shape American culture for so many generations to come. So, next time you're thinking about the Great Depression, remember that it wasn't only a story of hardship, right? It was also a story of resilience, of creativity, of communities finding ways to express themselves even in difficult circumstances. And dance was right at the center of that story. All right. So, as we meet these challenging times, um, just as a note to my fellow artists, my fellow creatives, to continue to create because the world needs it. The world needs your voice. All right. Hopefully, you enjoyed this video, got a little bit of inspiration out of it. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, all of the things, and I'll see you in the next one.